The greatest power you possess is your ability to choose. Join Lowe's Moore as he reveals how you can begin to maximize that power by exploring yourself on the deepest levels and committing to making lasting and positive changes. Get ready to achieve breakthroughs that will lead to accelerated growth and transformation, because you are now tuned in to The Blueprint.
Why the actions contradict the lamb. I'm fellowshipping when I'm with the fam. That's more relations, that's forming a phonic.
Good evening and welcome back to the Blueprint Podcast. Again, I'm excited, man, to be back with you. I hope you guys had a wonderful week. I actually literally enjoyed my week. It was amazing week. I took in a lot of basketball. I mean, starting Friday night all day yesterday, man. I just took in a whole lot of, especially the women's game. Saw a lot of women's basketball Friday night and all day Saturday, from 9:30 in the morning to about 8 o'clock. In the evening was the last game last night, and it's been a long time. I've actually gone to see some games, ladies game, women's game, and men's game. Not a whole lot of them, but I have seen some games, and I was just sitting there between Friday night and Saturday all day yesterday as I was watching these young women playing basketball, and I started to realize I was having, I don't know, like a weird feeling about, when I was a young person. Like, I had no idea what the process was. I was just finally I made my boys club team, and I was on the team and I was playing, and going through all the emotions and fears and different things that you go through, not really knowing, even though I had seen the Knicks win the NBA championship a long time ago. But for me, that was current. And I was thinking, like, in my mind, I was dreaming every night, like, hey, man, maybe I could play for the Knicks. Maybe I can play in the NBA. And I really didn't know what the process was to take that journey. And as I was sitting there yesterday watching these young ladies play, I was thinking, like, how much pressure. And I don't know if they know about the pressure, but playing AAU and watching some young ladies play, high school basketball on their high school teams in the tournament yesterday, and just sitting there with the coaches, coaches from all across the country, looking at these players, seeing whether or not these young ladies could, one day I can give one of these rare scholarships to. I mean, it's rare. I mean, to get a college scholarship to play at the collegiate level, man, you don't even know what kind of pressure is. I don't know whether those young ladies, when they was playing, they was just playing so hard, whether it was early in the morning or late in the night or in the afternoon, they were just playing so hard. And I'm looking at, I've been a parent of a young person, competing in AAU and tournaments like that. And I've been a coach and a parent, thinking that maybe my son or my daughter had the potential to one day receive a college scholarship. So I've been a parent. I'm listening. You can hear parents yelling at their kids, "Shoot the ball! What are you doing? What's going?" Just going crazy. You imagine the kind of pressure, that these young people are under. Coaches yelling on one end, the parent is yelling on the other end, and then you got people who are against you, and you got people that are for you, and then you got all these college coaches just staring at you, right? Just looking at you, and you're out there just playing ball. You know, I was just, I don't even know what those feelings are, because when you're on the court, you kind of get in a bubble. You know, it's you and your teammates on the court against the opposition, right? And this is when you know you really in the game, when you can't hear your parents, and you can't really hear kind of what the coach is saying, and you can't hear what people are yelling and screaming. That's when you know you really involved in the game, right? And some of them are hearing everything their parents say, so they can't focus, they can't get it right. But I was just sitting there thinking about all the pressure that these young women were going through, and that young men are going through each and every day, with all of us, with them hoping that they will get an opportunity to, not only play for the high school team, but, get that rare opportunity where somebody says, one of these schools, all you need is one, to say, hey, I really like your game, right? I want to offer you a scholarship. Man, I was just all kind of emotions yesterday, just sitting there taking it in. But anyway, I just thought I'd give you that little bit. And it's not just them. Let me say this final thing. I'm gonna say this final thing real quick. My son, my oldest son, went to Ride Country Day. And during a basketball game, he was playing on the basketball team. And during the basketball game, right, man, there was a whole bunch of kids at halftime outside of the gym doors yelling and screaming. They was yelling and screaming. And so, at halftime, I go out, and some kids are yelling and screaming, and some kids are yelling and screaming because they're happy. And then there's some kids that are yelling and screaming because they're sad, right? And that was the day when early admissions, that means you select colleges, you send all your information, your essay, everything into them, right? And this is the deciding moment whether or not you're going to get in Harvard or Yale or Notre Dame in an early, as an early selected early to be able to participate in that school, right? And so some people who've been dreaming about going to Notre Dame or going to Harvard or going to Cornell or whatever the school may be, some people, if they don't get that top one, there was a lot of people out there just screaming, crying and stuff like that, because they didn't get into their number one school. And then there was those who were screaming and yelling, right, because they got into the school that they had desired to get in. So it's not just sports pressure, right? It's just everyday pressure, right, in life, as you try to go through this life and to be competitive and to be successful. And so it's pressure all around. But that's what life is, right? Life is a test and a trial, and it is about competition, right? Because success is winning, right? But I found that sometimes when you lose, right, it motivates you to become successful. So I just want to throw that out. And so I'll say this to the parents, who want our kids. We want our kids to be successful, whatever the God gift them with. We want them to be successful. And we got to find a loving way to be there for them, to motivate them, but not drive them crazy, because we could drive them crazy and we could add more pressure, right? Help them go through the pressure. Help you be the pressure release valve, right? Don't be the one that's pressuring them. So with that, I mean, I don't have my pebble in the pond, but each and every week I drop a pebble or a ball. I drop it. I'm expecting a ripple effect of this show tonight, right? I want you to go out and text somebody, call somebody, and tell them to jump on the show. This is going to be like last week and the week before, very powerful, very focused. And so let's get rolling, right? I want to start out with my book of the week. Man, Stephen A. Smith. I watch Stephen A. Smith every single day. Straight shooter. His memoirs of the second chance and also first take. I didn't start reading it yet. I do have the book, but I haven't started to read it yet. I'm looking forward to it. Stephen A. as an African American male, right, is in a business. He's in a business where there's not a whole lot of African Americans, although we see more now. But when he first started in the business, it was 0% of people making it in that industry. And I'm sure he's got a whole lot of stories to tell. But I also say, I hope if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, that Stephen A. just cannot. I think Stephen A. he likes the Dallas Cowboy. He just can't stand Dallas Cowboy fans, right? And I was like, man, I was really pushing for that Prescott to win, right? Because I wanted to see him win, right? And also I wanted to see him, Stephen A. be quiet. But that didn't happen. So, man, he was hilarious, man, when Dallas lost, man. But to the Dallas fans is all, you know what it is? There's always next year, right? But if you didn't get a chance, man, check out his book, Straight Shooter, Stephen A. Smith. Man, it was the New York's #1 book, right? And it was in the top 3 books nationally as well. So make sure you check that out. And then here's my word of the week. Right. And this is the blueprint. Right. So my word of the week is blueprint. Right. And I'm hoping that in our discussion tonight, we'll talk about blueprint. So if you got a kid, a son or a daughter that's out there that's looking to be a student athlete, hoping that the future they'll be a pro in the future, or if they're looking to get into this world of sports, right, and they don't make it as the person on the court or the field, right, maybe they'll find out tonight that there are a whole lot of alternatives to sports, and but you need a plan. I mean, you need a blueprint, right? So that's my word of the week, blueprint. And then here's my affirmation, my Hill and Pierce Harper affirmation quote moment. It says, "You must make your dream a priority in order for it to become your life." Make your dream your priority, right, in order for it to become your life, right? And that's Bob Proctor. He's got 1 million of them things, man. But every day, every morning, man, I got to get an affirmation every morning. Every morning, I have to hear something positive every morning, right? Read a Bible verse, scripture, go to the word every morning. Find something that somebody's saying very positive that can impact you each and every single day. And then here's my music and movie of the week. And if anybody has a favorite Boys to Men song, right, I want y'all to put it in the chat, right? I love those guys, man. They're amazing, amazing, still going, right? Those guys are still going. They never get old, right? You said you used to say, like, when they were young, is there any young groups that can stand the test of time? Like, we still listen to the Manhattans, Blue Magic. We still listen to Earth, Wind and Fire. We still listen to Stevie Wonder. These guys have stand the test of time, right? Boys to Men. And then my movie of the week or documentary is The Last Dance. Since we're going to be talking about sports, right? Last Dance was a saver during the pandemic, man. I'm telling you, when they started showing the previews, right? They started showing the previews a year before it happened, right? And I was excited, man. I couldn't wait for that year to be up. right? And then if timing is everything, because man, soon as it came up, I was like, wow, just in the nick of time, man. The Last Dance came up and it was powerful, right? A lot of lessons in that, a lot of lessons. And also on Netflix is the Redeemed Team, right? LeBron James and Kobe Bryant and Dwayne Wade. Man, there are a lot of lessons in sports. Hope you take a look at that. And there you go, boys. The end of the road, boys to men, right? End of the road. I know there's a lot more, so make sure you pop them up there, right? And then now I got a quick shout out. Yeah, that's my son Jamal, right? And I want to wish him a happy birthday, right? And had the lovely grandkids today at the basketball game. They was all at the basketball game at Stony Brook's game today. They had a great victory, and I want to say happy birthday to them and many, many more. Love you, man. Yeah, so let's. Wow, coming soon. That's my baby girl and her husband Steve. They both coach for Stony Brook, and they're about to have a baby girl soon, right? Oh, congratulations, right? A baby girl. I mean, Dakota. So far, I got one grandson, and now there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Gonna be 4 girls. Woo-hoo! Dakota, we gonna because them girls be whacking you upside the head, man. Don't do that. All right, let's get rolling. Let me show a couple of highlights here, and then yeah, I'm gonna show 3 quick ones, and then we're gonna jump right in. We're gonna jump right into the interview. Oh yeah, that's one. Yeah. And then we're gonna after he makes the jump shot. That's it. All right, Terrence. We're gonna welcome Terrence to the show. What's up, man?
Going on? You caught me by surprise with those.
Oh yeah.
Going down memory lane.
Yeah. I mean, I try to do my stuff, man. I do my research. You know?
But in the almighty Boys and Girls Club attire too.
Yeah. What was the name? What's the name of the Elite, right?
Oh, Mount Vernon Elite.
Mount Vernon Elite.
Yeah. Look, it wasn't Mount Vernon Elite when I was there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that was after me.
Yeah, well, check this out.
Wow.
That's
crazy. That was a great team.
Yeah. You had a lot of talent, man.
Yeah, the talent on that team was crazy.
Whew. CJ was coaching.
Legendary coach.
Yeah. Oh man, that was good times, man.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, that team was stacked. We had a lot of talent on that team.
Wow. You often try to figure out, like when you look at a picture like that, you go way back and look at a picture, you start thinking like, wait, where's that guy at? Where's this guy? Where's that guy? Yeah.
It's pretty crazy though. Like, just looking at it, just glancing for a quick second, I've seen a few of those people I've seen or still keep in contact with here and there, or we have each other on social media. So we may not speak, but they may see what I'm doing or I see what they're doing, so social media has definitely been helpful in that sense of, I guess, staying connected to people, even if you don't speak often.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess as you get older, it comes back full, like, kind of circle. You start
Right.
to wonder where people are, and then you start, like you said, social media gives you an opportunity to put them in and say, "Oh, there they are, right there. I wonder
Right.
what they're doing." And then you reach out to them because you shared a moment with them. you know
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. And so what were you thinking, like, when the trophy there, you playing on the team? What were you thinking, when you look back at that picture? What do you think you were thinking at
Man,
that
like
time?
at that time, honestly, like that probably was one of the best moments I would say I had at the Boys and Girls Club. Just because I remember how special it was to be on that specific team. Because it was so much talent. There was only a few of us that were playing up. Like that wasn't my grade. That was a grade above us. And I believe
Mm,
myself, Michael, and William Robinson. I think we were the only ones. There may have been a few others, but we were one of the few that were playing up in age group. So, being on that team obviously was hard in terms of like getting playing time and things of that sort. And like you said, there was so much talent on the team.
yeah.
Every practice was difficult, just physically, mentally, just talent wise. But it was a great experience for sure.
Oh, awesome, man. Yeah, yeah. And I didn't know if you knew this. CJ was my first coach.
Really, I did not know that.
He was my first coach when I was a little kid. I was like 9 or 10 when I joined CJ's team, and yeah, CJ did it for a long time.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, yeah, and you know what? Most of the players was probably bigger than him.
yeah, right,
And then you look at the picture. If you look at the picture, everybody's the same size. You
right.
know, and then you're like, look, all the players back there bigger than him, man, bigger than CJ.
Look, and I'll just be guessing at this point, but I know at least for myself and the other guys my age, we were probably like 12 in that picture.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah, it's good. It's good to go back down memory lane, man. That was awesome, man. And I
absolutely.
remember that time, just kind of coming in the gym, watching you guys practice, and then you had games at the club.
Hmm.
And also I went to see a few games when you guys were in the tournaments.
Right.
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. They kept it real back then. That was
Oh,
good.
yeah, no, for sure, absolutely.
Oh man. So since we back there,
Mhm.
right, in old and uh, reflecting a little bit on the history, talk a little bit about growing up, mom, dad, siblings. Yeah, let us get to know you a little bit.
Yeah.
You know.
So I grew up, born and raised in Mount Vernon. I have a pretty tight knit family. Growing up, we were very tight knit. I have mom, dad, um, two two brothers, two older brothers. There is a little gap between us, so I joke with them a little bit to almost say like I grew up with older brothers, but at the same time, I almost grew up like an only child because they're closer in age, and then I kind of grew up when they already had gone on to college and graduated from college. So
Right.
my mom and dad in the house, but it's still close in terms of like even uncles and aunts. A lot of people in Mount Vernon in terms of family, so we all got together often for like holidays and different events. I would say in terms of even my upbringing, I had a very education, I guess, heavy or forward family in the sense of, you know, my mom was a teacher.
Mm.
My aunt was a teacher. I'll probably be leaving people out, but I had others in my family as well that were involved in the school system in some capacity. So,
Right.
just naturally for myself, it was never pushed on me at all as far as like, you need to be an incredible student, but just like growing up in the environment, like I knew I had to behave in such manner and get, good grades. A lot of even just I remember parent teacher conferences. it was almost like a reunion for my mom when she would come, because it seemed like it'll be more so about, her being able to connect with all the different teachers and, that she knows from all the years than, just even speaking just to my teachers itself. So yeah, that's definitely some of my memories growing up in that sense.
Yeah. What, I don't know. Was that wasn't Mr. Richardson, was it?
Yeah, well, look, that's such a common last name, but but
Huh?
yeah, no, that's my mom's maiden name, Richardson.
Right. But the older gentleman did.
And that was my grandfather and my grandmother. Yeah,
Yeah, Mr. Richardson right there.
yeah, Bob Richardson.
Yeah. I put, this is crazy. I played with Mr. Richardson. Of course, I'm trying to remember his one of his buddies, golf buddies.
Oh, wow.
I played golf with him several times.
Okay.
And Mr. Jim Jubilee and Leo Woods. He owns a funeral home, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I went out with them a couple of times, and your grandfather was like 85 then, right? And so I'm out with them, and I'm a young buck. They hitting it like 150 yards down the field,
right.
Down the course, and I'm trying to hit them because I'm young. I'm trying to pound that ball, and I'm hitting them in the woods and over in the street. And they like, son, you just gotta connect the ball with the club, man, and just hit it straight,
Right.
And
Right.
they taught me how to relax. They taught me like it's not about power, it's just about consistency of hitting that ball. But before then, man, I was hitting that ball all over the place, man. I learned a lot from playing with them, particularly about being patient. Because they wasn't moving fast, but but I learned a lot just spending time with them, and they were always gentlemen, always nice, really nice people, man, and paid me a lot of compliments.
He got me into golf, very young. Like you said, that was his love for sure. So actually it's funny, when I was in elementary school, I went to Pennington Grimes. He would pick me up from school and we would go straight to Dunwoody Golf Course in Yonkers, and we would go to the driving range and we would just be out there practicing. And to be honest with you, I was actually like really good, like at a young age, because I was only 9, 10, but I was like connecting very well, hitting it a decent amount, especially for my age. Like, he really instilled it in me, and not even just like the driving range, like putting as well. Like, I had a pretty good, like, well-rounded game, to the point it's funny. I have the memory of like other people, they would like stop what they were doing to like come just watch us like at our green. So like that was definitely, some good memories that I have for sure. But like you said, patience is for sure a key thing when it comes to golf. I still love to this day going to the driving range, honestly.
Yeah. And did you ever think about? I don't think Mount Vernon had a golf team at the time.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they did have a golf team. I want to say they may have, but it may have been one of those teams where it's like whoever wanted to play kind of could have played, because they didn't have many people that were interested. Honestly, I really, like, thinking back, I really wish that I would have done it just to get that experience. My brothers actually did do it when they were at Mount Vernon High School. So,
okay, they play golf at Mount Vernon High School?
Yeah, they played golf at Mount Vernon High School.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wish that I kind of would have had that as well. But, at that time, basketball was just my full focus. So, yeah.
So what's the connection with all the Richardsons? Rob, who's, man, you got it's a lot of Richardsons.
Yeah. So as you know, my Rob is my uncle. So that's my mother's sibling, my mother's brother. Then I'm not sure if you know my Aunt Paula Richardson.
Yes.
Paula. Yeah. So they're all siblings, and they also have another sibling, my Aunt Candice. She lives down in Maryland now, but she did go to Mount Vernon High School as well. Yeah,
and what is it, Jill? Not what?
Yeah, Jill. Aunt Jill, that's Uncle Rob's wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a pretty big family, spread throughout Mount Vernon, but
No. Well known in Mount Vernon. And
yeah.
Rob's a few years older than I am.
Mm,
But he was always at the club when we was playing with the alumni.
yeah.
He's always coming to work out the alumni, playing ball and stuff like that. Everybody's talking junk, all the time. But
Yeah, that's his thing for sure. That's definitely he loves that.
oh man. So in your family, you mentioned education. Evidently, education is important because your mom was a teacher,
Right.
number one. And what about between education and faith?
I would say it kind of varied in my family, not in terms of like what our particular beliefs were, but I would say as much as how much we individually may have dove into, our beliefs. So just in
Hmm.
terms of attending church, we all didn't attend church maybe the same amount.
Hmm.
So like for my particular family, we did go to church, but not, I would say as often as like maybe other parts of my family. I went to church like every single Sunday, no matter what. Their
Yeah.
children, my cousins may have attended Sunday school every single Sunday. I kind of was there like here and there from time to time. But yeah, I wouldn't say like consecutive goer in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you were in high school, man, you're in high school. Well, you ended up playing at the Boys and Girls Club,
Right.
right? And then you always thought, okay, since you was playing, that somewhere down the road you would be a student athlete. I mean, was that the goal?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, honestly, I feel like any and everybody that was playing, at least in my particular age group, for sure had that, vision of what that would be. It was very high, it was highly competitive too at that time, for
Hmm.
all of us, and everybody was pushing each other. I mean, we had looked at people that were above us, um, whether not just people that have gone past college, but even people that were in high school already. I think it was
Hmm.
all pretty well connected in terms of having relationships with them and seeing those that had came and been at the Boys and Girls Club with us, then had gone on to play high school basketball, college basketball, onward from that professionally, NBA overseas, whatever it was. But I think at that particular time, that had to be, the thought process for not only myself, but I would say my peers as well.
Yeah. So you end up playing for the high school, right? Um, and what was the pressure of, now you're in high school?
Yeah.
Eh,
So that's actually even interesting in that story. So I played so my ninth grade year, I played freshman at the school. Sophomore year, I played JV. Then I didn't play varsity when I was at the school. I
Okay.
didn't make the varsity team. But like I said, like just having grown up we all grew up playing together from when we were 11, 12 years old. So it still was a great experience for sure. And I learned, it's funny, like, I joke with people even when I went to college. It's like the experience that I had and the competition that I had at Mount Vernon, and then get into college and seeing some of the schools that these kids that came from, and the talent level and the competition that they were playing against. It was like it was nowhere near comparable.
Right,
So
right,
it's
right.
like even like I will even say like honestly, our freshman team or our JV team would probably be a lot of those kids' varsity teams from where they were coming from. But that was just like the competitive nature, the talent level that was coming out of Mount Vernon at around my class as well was like extremely
Right.
talented.
So the goal was to make the high school team,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? But you only played
Yeah, freshman and JV. Yeah,
freshman and JV. And so what I mean, as a person who's thinking, you know, I'm gonna play in college,
right.
one day, probably at a higher level. And then all of a sudden you make the freshman team, you make the JV team, and then it doesn't happen in
Hmm.
terms of the varsity. What was your mindset? I mean,
It was I mean, at that time, it was definitely frustrating for sure. Because I think, like I said, with having grown up around all of us coming up together, like we pretty much have been playing on the same teams, whether it be the Boys and Girls Club, overlapping with the junior nights a little bit. We had played together for so long, and then get to that level, it's like a lot of them had made the team. Not all of them, but a lot of them had made the team, and then I didn't. Then that's where it was like, okay, now there's like a bit of a separation in us. in terms of like, all right, now after school, they have to go to practice. Now I don't have to go to practice because I'm not on the team. So it's like, what do I do with my time? Because my whole life up to this point, I always had practice after school or study hall or whatever, you know? So I would say that was a huge adjustment for me for sure. But
Right.
I
And
still
then,
stay connected to them. Like all of them is still like my boys and friends. Like, you know, I was still cool with every single one of them.
yeah. I mean, you know, do you think that as you were coming up, um, was, and I think both of them are important, right? You know, sports and education are important, but priority wise, you know, you had more of a feel for which one more. Okay, the education is more is this, and the basketball is like the education's here, the basketball, or was basketball here, and you know I'll do the
Yeah.
education.
I would say for myself, it might have been, I would say it was probably like 60-40, 60 being basketball, honestly. I
Right.
think that being the family that I grew up around, like I said, education kind of came like pretty natural to me. You know, like
Hmm.
I definitely wasn't an A+ student across the board by any means, but like it came natural to me in the sense of I knew what I had to do and I could still make the honor roll, you know, like or whatever in that sense.
Hmm.
But I think basketball is definitely um, it definitely had more priority. I would say in that sense.
Mm. Yeah. And so now what? Now all of a sudden, you're not on a varsity team,
Yeah.
right? I mean, was there a shift in your thought process about what your future looked like? I mean, because I'm just insinuating that
Hmm.
you thinking I'm one day I'm gonna be in the pros,
Right. I
right?
think that and it's actually something that I actually mentioned a lot, where which I think will maybe trickle into another question, but at that time, like it still was on my mind a lot. Even though even though it had happened, it was like, all right, are you over it at this point? Like you have to continue your life at this sense. But I still think that like at that time, I don't know how much I would say how realistic I was in the sense of life moving on. With like high school is not going to last forever. you know? And I
Hmm.
think that trickled into the approach that I took of when I was going to college, in the sense of applying to colleges, like applying to colleges as far as like, putting all your information in, like, just the whole application process. I think that I really struggled in that sense because I didn't have that, I didn't buy into the realistic feeling of like, this isn't going to last forever. And that, and coming from a family education background, that by no means was their fault at all, because like I said, I was doing a lot of the stuff that I needed to do without them having to like push me, push me, push me, push me. So in that, they were pushing me, but still it was to my own fault. And the reason why, I may have
Right.
not applied to all the schools I could have, or sending in incomplete applications to some of these colleges. Therefore, I didn't get into some colleges I should have got into, in that whole process.
Mm. And if you look back, because as you look back, would you think about it differently? I mean, in terms of your priority, you know, they would be even. Would you think? You think you like I'll be focusing? Yeah, I'm going to focus on basketball, but I'm going to really focus on the same amount as my education as well because I'm not going to play forever.
Right. I think so. Maybe a little bit more, but I don't think, maybe not more in the sense of what I was doing from a day to day, but more because I was doing all the work. I wasn't like missing
Hmm.
assignments, missing class. Like I was doing everything that I needed to do. But
Right.
probably specifically with the college application process, because like I said, like as far as the GPA requirements or community service requirements or anything that the colleges were looking for, I had everything and beyond that some of these schools were looking for, but I was procrastinating so much in the sense of past, like, not putting in the applications in on time, and by the time they got to the schools they were incomplete with information, and the schools don't care about you in the sense of
Mm.
they're not going to go back and forth with you about, oh, you missed this, you missed that, so it's like, well, if you don't put the complete application in, then that's it. You know, you're not getting in. Our deadline is passed. And I think that's what I for sure ran into.
Yeah. And I got another question for you. Like you said, you weren't the only person, and you don't have to mention any names,
Right.
right? But you weren't the only person. All you guys grew up together, you weren't the only person that did not make varsity,
Right.
right? And how did you think that some of those guys, took that? Some of your boys that didn't make it, did they, do you think that they were able to make an adjustment? I mean,
I think some of them probably did make an adjustment in a different way, maybe in line of like going to play a different sport, which is something that reflecting,
yeah,
maybe I should have done that, even if it was going to do the golf thing. Like I had, we had discussed
yeah,
previously,
yeah.
but it's like just to do something.
Hmm.
I think, like you said, everybody kind of handled it differently, but not in the way of like people not being friends anymore,
Right,
in
right.
terms of like adjusting and then moving forward with life. I definitely, like I said, with some of them going on to play other sports and pursue that and being successful at that,
Hmm.
I think that was definitely helpful for them at that time.
Right. And with some of those guys that didn't make it, did you guys have a conversation? Like, did you look at each other? Like one time, one time when I was in my senior year at West Virginia, uh, me and my backcourt mate, right, and and I don't know, I was hanging and hovering around between a C and a B,
Yeah.
uh, you know, average, and he was excelling, you know, uh, having to be a white guy. His priorities with his mom and dad was a little bit different, and so he was a good student, business major. I was in communications, and we were just sitting there. We realized that it is about to be over.
Right.
And he was thinking like, hey, if I had really concentrate more on getting in the gym and working real hard, I think I would have had an opportunity to play professionally, right? And I was like, yeah, because he seen me in there every day,
Hmm.
doing what I'm doing. And then I started thinking to myself, I said, you know what? Instead of hovering around between a C and a B, if I had put the effort in academically that I was putting it into the sport, I probably could have hovered around between a B and an A average.
Right.
Right? It's amazing the conversation. We sitting there
Yeah.
having this conversation because I was just thinking that maybe one of you guys, did you ever have a conversation with somebody after you're both or two or three didn't make it, and you're sitting there talking like, okay, any conversation at that time?
To be honest, I don't think that ever happened. I don't think that any of us had a conversation about it. I think, like you said, like everybody, once it happened, like everybody kind of just went about their ways individually, and that was really pretty much it.
Yeah, I just often, wonder, like when, all you guys growing up together and all of a sudden, boom, it's over. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's
and
like so abrupt at the time.
yeah, and then you have a conversation like, hey man, how you feel about
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
because I was thinking like, my dream was to play in the NBA,
Hmm.
right? And of course, I seen the Knicks when I was a little kid win a championship, right? So that
Right.
sparked something like I'm gonna play with the Knicks. And I'll never forget, like I wrote in my book, right? Like the first team I tried out for, and I wasn't playing on the organized team, just playing in the playground. Somebody recognized I had a little talent. I went to the boys club at the time before it became Boys and Girls Club, and they said, "Man, you ought to try out for the team." And so okay, try out. I don't know what that means, So I try out, and then they come out with the sheet and said, if you don't hear your name, you cut.
Hmm.
so so I didn't hear my name, so it could have been all over,
Yeah.
then at
Yeah.
9 or 10, it could have been like, whoop, it's done.
Right. Right.
And I mean, if it wasn't for my friend who said, go to the north side, I was the south side, go
Hmm.
to the north side Boys and Girls Club. There's another club over there. And I went, and he forced me to go there on a Saturday morning, man, because I was like, look, I'm not going to get cut again.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, and I go there and I'm going down the stairs, me and my friend, and CJ is walking up, and he
Okay.
says, "You guys want to play basketball?" And he gave us uniforms. Well, first
That's
of all,
crazy.
you know CJ, right? You know
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
CJ is, yeah. So you know how CJ is. He just gave me a uniform and I played.
Right. Right. That's crazy.
Oh man, but nah, I just wonder because so many. I don't know if you heard the beginning of the show
Hmm.
when I was talking about the pressure. I was watching those young ladies play.
Yeah.
We just don't know, the kind of pressure that.
Well, I think that, I've actually had some conversations with a few like the coaches, from Mount Vernon, just talking about it now that I'm older. And that is one thing that I actually mentioned in terms of like the pressure internally of Mount Vernon itself. It's almost like Mount Vernon is its own bubble, in terms of like basketball. It's like it was like the end all be all. That's what kind of we were raised in. I feel is like basketball, 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 and you're
Mhm.
not really thinking of anything else. So like you don't really think about an alternative because everybody can't play.
Right.
Like that just is what it is. So I feel like that's what you said about the pressure. I think that is where I think the pressure was in terms of like, what do I do if I don't make the team, if I don't do this, if I don't become a college basketball player, if I don't get a scholarship, if I don't, like all those different things. I think that is where the pressure lied in it for sure.
Right. So now you come into the end of your high school career, right? And I mean, what ended up happening? I mean, in terms
Yeah.
of you graduating, and what choices did you make after that?
So I'll go back a second to tell you how it got to that point. So where I was talking about the applying to colleges aspect of it, like I said, I
Hmm.
probably applied to I don't know, 15 or so, no, maybe like 10 schools or so.
Hmm.
And then I only got into like a few of them. But like I said, I was academically, there was no reason why I shouldn't have, but
Hmm.
in getting into it and getting into one of the ones I got into, that's how I ended up going to the school, SUNY Cortland. I had never heard of SUNY Cortland before ever. I didn't know anything about it, where it was. Actually, one of the phys ed teachers at Cortland had attended. I mean, one of the phys ed teachers at Mount Vernon High School had went to Cortland, and she mentioned it to me. And then my guidance counselor at the time, she had suggested I apply there because I think with the SUNY schools, you could apply for like 4 through like a Common App or something like that, like
Hmm.
4 for the price of 1.
Right.
So it was one of the schools on the list that I applied for, and they accepted me. And that's the only reason why I ended up going there. I never had visit the school or anything like that. It was just like, this is school that accepted you, so this is where you're going. So
Right.
obviously that could have led to so many different avenues of, it could have been awful, it could have been amazing, but I couldn't really have much of an expectation for it because I didn't know much about it.
Mm. Right. And I guess that goes with the lot of when you ask people about going to college. I asked a lot of young people over the years. You plan on going to college, and they said, yeah, I plan on going to college. Okay, where do you want to go? I mean, do you want to go where it's hot,
Right.
cold, in between? Do you want to go south, north, west? Where do you want to
Yeah.
go? You
Yeah.
know, because SUNY Cortland is cold.
Freezing. Freezing. It was terrible up there in that sense.
I don't even know how people like. I mean, I know like UConn, men and women's basketball, great basketball program.
Right.
I went up there one time. I was like, man, it is freezing up here, man. And there's nothing. I mean, literally, there's nothing out there. I mean, just like you on a farm or something.
Yeah,
You know?
that's exactly what Cortland was like. It was a small town though, actually similar to Mount Vernon. But the thing is, like, even though it was this like similar size of Mount Vernon probably has triple the population of what the town
Yeah,
of Cortland was. So it was much different, and just from a racial aspect as well.
yeah.
Growing up in Mount Vernon, it's I don't know what percentage, but majority African American. going to being in Cortland, from the town and also the student population as well, it was majority white people, so
Right.
that was a big difference as well, in terms of adjusting and acclimating when I got there.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't even look at that. We don't
Yeah.
look at it. If we're going to historically black college, we're going to stay around, African American, but you stay around black folks. Or what is it like to go and be with a whole different culture?
Yeah.
We don't even think about those things. I wasn't thinking about. I was just thinking about playing basketball in West Virginia. I was like, whoa, what's going on here?
Right. Right. Exactly.
Oh man. And so when you get there, did you know what you wanted to major in? I mean, how
No.
did you get to where you are now? I mean, and how did you get to your career choice?
So I think I'll go 2 steps. First, and getting there, I still would think would have had a similar mindset from high school in terms of like, how long is this going to last? Like 4 years, but like, how quickly is this going to go? So I was undecided when I got to college. Again, basketball was kind of the focus still at that point, because again, coming from the program that I came from, the high school that I came from, the town that I came from, I knew that there was levels like the basketball essentially. So when I got to school and seeing the talent level there, then I ended up playing basketball at my school, at the college. But from the educational piece of it, I didn't choose a major until my junior year. I was undecided my first 2 years, so I was just doing the standard elective courses that you have to take. And then come junior year, you have to choose a major. At my school, that's at least how it was. So I chose sport management. Again, still not really knowing what I wanted to do with that. It's very broad. There's so many different things that you can do. The particular role that I'm in now, as far as being an agent, was not discussed at all at the school. But it was more so discussing like event management, like managing different sporting events, as far as like, facility management for different events that are being held, like different positions and jobs in that sort. Maybe like, marketing for different corporations, or even for, leagues as far as the NBA, NFL, baseball, things in that sort. So yeah, that's how I ended up choosing sports management.
Yeah, I mean, but how did you arrive at becoming an agent? I mean, how did you flow into that? I mean, you graduated. I
Yeah.
mean, I think I got a couple of, yeah, I know I got a graduation picture, man. So, 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 so you graduated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after, so in order to complete the degree in sport management at my school, at least, you had to get an internship, in which you had to get some like on the ground experience, essentially. So I had got an internship at Iona College right after I graduated, and to complete the degree, I did an internship at Iona College and working in like their athletic administration department, doing like a lot of social media marketing, things of that sort. And then onward from that, after I completed that, then I got another internship at a sports agency. So
you was at Iona
yeah,
interning, and what was it again?
I was interning in their athletic administration department.
Okay.
So, so there, like I said, I was doing a lot of like social media marketing, like trying to promote the different sports prior to the kids coming back to school, because I had done the internship over the summer. And then after I completed that, then now it's like, all right, well, now you have to get a job, basically. So it's like, it's funny, at that time, I still didn't 100% know what I wanted to do. My major interest at that time, though, was I wanted to be an athletic director. That's that's probably what I was really set on at that particular time.
I mean, how did you arrive at you wanted to be an athletic director?
Just from when I was in school at the college.
Okay.
Sometimes the athletic director, you don't really know who they are, depending on the school.
Right.
my school, he was very visible. He was attending all the sporting events. He knew who the college athletes were. He was speaking to us often, having casual conversation. So I got a chance to know him a lot, pick his brain. We had a lot of good conversations, and him explaining to me like what the job entailed. I'm sure, like, of course, money plays a factor, and he talked about them making a good amount of money for the job as well. And it just seemed to be like a outside looking in, like a very kind of like relaxing job in a sense of, him overseeing a lot of different things. Obviously, his hands were in a ton of things, and he had to make a lot of important decisions. But it just seemed like something that I felt I could see myself doing for sure.
Yeah, and then it also we had, before the show started, we had started talking about those individuals, male or female, who grow up playing sports, been doing it for a long time since they were little kids and stuff like that. And I don't think sometimes we think about things other than the actual play. Right. And here you find yourself is, okay, well, you still played in a college, and now what you're looking at, and from my understanding, I think SUNY Cortland is one of the schools that if you're looking to get a phys ed degree, it's one of the schools that people recommend that you go get a phys ed degrees or masters or whatever too. And it is rare because phys ed degrees are, I don't know many schools. I just only know Cortland, right? Yeah. So around phys ed degrees and being an athletic director, I mean, you still in sports. I mean, you still around the game.
Absolutely. And I think that diving into a little further, which I'm sure we'll touch on, but after leaving college and getting into the field that I'm in now, that's when it opened up my mind, 10 times at that point, as far as like the different avenues in which there are to still be involved in the sport without playing, the different jobs that there are. And there's becoming more and more jobs as the time goes on in terms of the creativity of the business and people getting creative about ways to, monetize different businesses around the sport of basketball.
Oh yeah. And I think I had on my wife's cousin, McGregor, Gil McGregor. He was with the Charlotte Hornets. He was the color commentator, did the television, all those things for many years, played at Wake Forest. Then his son followed him and did the same thing at Wake Forest, played ball. And then now he's doing creative sports media, social media, interviews. I mean, like you say, he just got hired in a big time situation through social media.
Right. And that's something that that is one of the examples. And, I tell when I do speak to kids now, that's something, there's so many different ways in which you could look at what your current strengths are and how they could be applicable to role and being involved around the sport or a job, So like you said, social media is extremely popular now, obviously amongst this generation, whether it be Instagram or Twitter or TikTok or, Snapchat, like whatever the platform may be. A lot of people are monetizing it. So are you a person that is good at growing social media followings, knowing the type of content to put out that grabs an audience, that gets a lot of engagement, that gets a lot of likes, that, like things like that. Now, NBA teams look at that, they want to put out the best content to get the most engagement. The NBA itself, and I'm just sticking to basketball right now for this conversation, but you go across to other sports and leagues as well. But even down to the individual player or athlete, the players, that's how they grow their brand and their profile, for different marketing opportunities with different companies out there, whether it be anything that you can think of, Nike, Gatorade, Body Armor, sneaker, shoe apparel, food, whatever they're promoting. A lot of these brands and companies, they'll look at the social media following sometimes first before they even dive into the player and like who they are and what they value. So if you're a person that can help athletes and players grow their profile and brand through social media, that may be something that could play to your strength. But just diving into like even other roles that there may be, like even being a manager of an athlete, if you're in position to have a relationship with them. You could be a manager, an agent. That's the title that I have. If you're good at math, maybe, or with finances, you could be a financial advisor. If you're sticking to math as well, you could be someone that helps with like a salary cap expert with some of these teams, and they have to figure out financially how to assemble the team with fitting the salaries together. What else is there? Are you somebody that's a photographer, a videographer, that captures the content? Like there's so many different avenues in which you can, be around the business now.
Yeah, and then also I think most, like in terms of all these sports, uh, what do you call it? Trying to think of, that deals with math too as well. What's the career now? Everybody's they analyzing the data.
Oh yeah, the analytics.
Yeah, analytics. Plays a big part today. I mean, and a lot of guys, there are a lot of analytic coaches. I
Absolutely.
mean, loads of them, man. People that are getting the job never played a game. It's just looking at the math, man.
Honestly, yes, seriously, that really is the case. So, it just goes to show you, like, how many different avenues there are to still be involved in around the game of basketball, even if you're not a player in itself.
And like you said, it applies to not only basketball, but football, baseball, hockey, soccer. There's so many different integral parts when you
Right.
talk about sports.
Right.
Yeah. And so let me digress for a minute before we go back into this, man. You end up getting, from my understanding, you end up getting married.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh man. Every time I look at you, you look so young,
Yeah.
right? You look the same as you did when okay, I'm not gonna go all the way back to the boys and girls club. But yeah, you still got that young. Sometimes I figure like, hey man, Terrence is not like, he's not 18, 19 no more,
Right.
Yeah, because they see you, they say, man, he probably like he's still in high school.
I know. No, for sure, right?
So the married, how's the married life going?
Oh, it's definitely great. I would say that, one thing for us and having being married, one thing we want to have the feeling of like there not being a major difference or change in us, once we did get married after being together for, all the years prior to, just making sure that, our goals were aligned and similar, making sure, we had an understanding of what each other's needs or wants are, just coming together like that. But it's definitely been great for sure.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I like that, man.
Yeah.
How many years you been married?
So now, look, 1 year. We got married October 2021.
Okay. All
Yeah, so
right.
now on year
You had to
two
get
right
past
now.
the pandemic.
People joke with us a lot about that. They say that, like, look, if you guys made it through the pandemic together, then then you'll be able to survive.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know my youngest daughter, Sherelle. I don't think they're a year yet. Are they a year? I don't think they're a year. They got married last year, June
Okay.
of last year. So they in their year,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Michelle is going on 3 or 4 years. I mean,
Okay.
and then my wife and I, we're going to be 40 years this year.
Wow. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. It's been fun. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed marriage. I've enjoyed family. I think that the most powerful things, man,
Yeah.
is family, man.
Right.
Yeah. I just think it's so important. So let's jump back into it. In terms of now getting into the field you're in now as an agent.
Right.
Talk about how you got into that process, and what is it all about? We hear about agents all the time, but Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think coming into it, when I first like I said, I first started as an intern at the company. I had my hands in a lot. They threw me in the fire, which is amazing for where I am now in terms of my growth. But I was doing a lot of like marketing, public relations, social media, a lot of salary cap stuff. So when I got into it, I had no idea what it really meant to be an agent. And I didn't know there was so much more to it than just negotiating contracts. So when I saw these different avenues and lanes that I was getting the experience in, that definitely helped me for where I am today in terms of like what my knowledge is, what I could bring to the table when I'm speaking to clients, or just in terms of having a conversation, the fluidity in which I'm able to speak about these different topics outside of just what the particular agent job is, I think is an advantage for sure, in some degree. But it is definitely a lot of moving parts, and a lot of things that go into it. I think a big part of being an agent, just from the representation part of it, is managing a lot of different relationships, managing a lot of different personalities, just in working with different, if you think about working with different athletes, these people could be coming from, which is the part I love as well, coming from all different walks of life. I've worked with a lot of players that have come from internationally, over to the NBA, from countries that I may have never heard of at the time, growing up. Being able to speak with them, learn about their culture, learn about their countries, their upbringing, how it differed from mine. Even people in the United States, whether it be recruiting or us signing clients that are not from the East Coast, that may have different accents, again, different upbringing, different family dynamics. I think that's definitely a part that I've loved as well.
Yeah. And what's the tedious part of it, in terms of coming up with a client?
What's the most tedious part?
Yeah. Like, I mean, how do you identify a client, a prospective client?
I think a lot of it really is one. I think in terms of identifying the talent, a lot of it could just be your own personal views or your own scouting, let's say, visually for yourself. It's like who you think is a good basketball player. If you're recruiting somebody to go to the NBA, who do you think be an NBA player? What qualities does that person have? And for me, it's not only how good you are at basketball, but also the type of person that you are. If it's somebody that I feel may give me a lot of difficulty in my life, it may not be worth it. So like I personally may not want to represent someone that, may, I don't think any agent wants to be getting calls at 1:00 in the morning, hearing about their client getting in trouble,
Right.
So it's like to take the ease of mind in that sense. I think it's important to work with people that you identify with, which again, in turn makes it so every player will not be for you. And on the player side, every agent will not be for you, but at the same time, there can be somebody for everyone,
Right. Yeah. And that, because I know you guys, I mean, how do you, when you're talking about players, I mean, particularly you deal with a lot of guys going to the NBA. Right. So you're talking about internationally and you're talking about locally. I mean, in comparison, it seems to be like they're more, I'm not going to say one's more valuable than the other, but the difference between the international player and then our local players in America, and now it's a trend that more international players are coming into league versus guys who are here in the United States. And what's the difference? I mean, do you see a difference in it in the types of players, or what's the difference?
I think a lot of it could play a part. I think one way you could look at it is, one, the NBA is pushing to become more of a global game. So as you hear these success stories of the current NBA players that are from these different international markets and countries, I think now you're inspiring the youth of those particular countries because they've seen one of their own or a few of their own, multiple of their own make it, you know, and those people may be pouring back resources as well as the NBA or, you know, or just basketball over there in general. You know, they love basketball just as much, if not more than we do here in the United States. So they're pouring their resources into their youth, which I think actually is something that, you know, may differ in the sense of like youth basketball here, I think isn't maybe as organized as youth basketball internationally in terms of the development aspect of it. It seems to be a lot more organized, whereas here it doesn't seem. I don't think it's as organized here in the United States. I think even just from an ego standpoint, you know, I think that the kids here kind of already have, a lot of kids, you know, may have like the feeling of that they may have already made it, or that, you know, because they're ranked a certain level, or you know, they're the most dominant player locally, you know, that they're above others, or that they've already achieved something that they haven't, you know, where I don't think that's particularly the case internationally as well. I think that's a big difference maker.
And I was just talking to somebody about in terms of United States, particularly in America, how you know, I grew up where our high school teams were very strong. You know, like Mount Vernon High School is very strong, you know, in terms of being able to play basketball. But now I think there's a weakness in high school because now there's so many schools that can recruit, particularly high school. Like you can go to a Catholic school, you can go to a private school, and you can go to a prep school. I mean, and so when I look at high school basketball 20, 30 years ago, right? Everybody, college coaches and people coming down to see that guy play in high school, right? So now you're going to see them play at private schools, and I mean, and it's broadened now. All these kids are leaving their local schools, you know, and going to these private schools, and which dilutes your high school.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
And even from a AAU perspective as well, like now there's way more AAU teams than there ever were in the past. So particularly in New York as well, like there's so many AAU teams. You know, you have the circuits for the shoe apparel companies, so like the Nike circuit, Adidas circuit, Under Armour circuit. When I say New York, let's just say New York, New Jersey together. Like there's probably way more teams than there should be. So like you said, in terms of the talent level being watered down, still high level talent, but rather there being, I'm just making up a number, rather there being, you know, 15 teams, if there were 8 teams or 5 teams, then imagine what the talent level would be per team at that sense, you know. But because the game of basketball is just growing so much, I understand why there's so many, you know, AAU teams. And I think a lot of people want to kind of like run their own show at the same, you know, in that same sentiment as well. And now with social media, I think plays a huge part in it as well. And particularly basketball, I think it's it's really connected between the NBA, high school, and college, where it's a really trickle effect. And it doesn't feel as long as it may have used to feel in terms of the gap between high school kids and NBA guys because of one and done. So now you have guys that are rookies or sophomores in the NBA, but some of their high school teammates are still in high school, you know? So I think the gap in terms of like where those players feel they should be or what their goals are, now you end up incorporating that into them playing AAU, different people in their ear telling them that they should be XYZ level talent. They're not getting the minutes or getting the shots that they should be getting over here. So now they leave that program and come play for a different program. And then that goes into the high school as well. And you end up having kids that play for 4 or 5 different high schools as well. Yeah, so I think that all that plays a role in it.
Yeah. And now remember out there, you know, we're interactive. So if you got a question or a comment, I mean, throw it in the chat here, and you know, we'll discuss that as well. what do you think about what do you think about the portal? I mean, do you think it helps like a lot of athletes that they're at one school, then they're at another school, then they're at another school? What do you think about that the portal
I think
situation?
there's pros and cons to it, of course. Like you can hear, some success stories about kids going to a college that, honestly, maybe a coach had promised them something coming in.
Hmm.
They didn't fulfill that promise when the kid got to the school, and now it's a bad situation for that student. So transferring to a better situation, that's a positive outcome of it. But then also
Hmm.
on the other side of it as well, you have kids that may go somewhere, and it could be a decent situation, but again, they may feel that it's not the best for them. And then you end up transferring to a situation that may be the same or worse than of where you already were. So if you end up staying where you were, that could have been a better situation rather than, the grass isn't always greener in that
Right.
sense.
Yeah. True.
And I think from a evaluation standpoint, whether it be myself or scouts or from the NBA, I think they look at that stuff and they'll say, why is this kid transferring? So why is he transferring so much? What's the story? Why did he leave this school to go to this school? Why did he leave this school? Was it him? Was it the coaches? Is he not a good teammate? Is he not coachable? What's the story behind that? And there may not be any story at all. Maybe he just left a situation that wasn't the best for him and needed to go elsewhere. But I
Mhm.
think that you raise some questions when, you end up bouncing from place to place to place.
Yeah. Yeah. So, man, so talk a little bit about the uh when the when so many people that want to be in the NBA or they want to play professionally and stuff like that. Talk about as an agent, what are you guys looking for? I mean, when you're looking for that potential player that you think is going to be a top draft pick, do you start when do you start taking a look at a guy that you think potentially could be a client? When do you start looking at that player?
Uh, Man, at this point, with like the whole NIL thing, name, image, likeness, with now kids in high school are able to have agents, so you have to look, very, very
Mm,
early. It could be all the way down to ninth grade, to be honest with you. And not ninth grade in terms of signing them at that point doesn't have to be, but ninth grade in terms of monitoring them and seeing how they may develop over the course of the years. So for myself, I think like I said, it could be ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th or 12th, all the way through. And again, it's just in terms of monitoring their progress. You may see something in a player that, you know, that you feel they have what it takes to make it to the league, but whether it be rankings or mock drafts, like none of that stuff honestly really matters at the end of the day.
mm,
Because you could get a ton of examples of players that were not ranked at all, or were not on any mock drafts and ended up making it to the NBA. And you could take a ton of examples of players that were projected to get picked high or did get picked high, or were ranked high and were not success stories as well for whatever reason there may be. Um, yeah.
yeah. I mean, and so when you're looking at that player, beside you had mentioned earlier, I think, or we had in a conversation, that it's not just basketball. I mean, talk about some of the other things you look at when it comes down to finding that player that you think could potentially be a client.
Right. And well, one is the person, are they coachable? Are they a good teammate? Are they a good student? Um, are they do they how hard do they work? Not just in practice, but are they doing additional things outside of the team practice to try and become a better player individually? Um, how do they take constructive criticism? If someone tells them they can't do this or they can't do that, like do they react to that negatively, or do they try and channel it, digest it, and try and become better at that? Whereas their head, do they does their head get filled with all these different maybe rankings and projections and all that, which may diminish their work ethic level? Or are
Mhm.
they I'm going to stay humble, keep my head down and just continue to work and let the outcome be whatever it may be? I think those are different, elements of recruiting or targeting players, or things that I look at when I'm recruiting.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think I got a few pictures here. Um, and you can kind of tell me who's who.
Yeah, so that is Cam Thomas. He currently plays for the Brooklyn Nets. One of the clients that we've been working with since his rookie year.
And well, I think LSU.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, he can score, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he comes in the game like he like a little microwave there. He comes and
Right.
stop putting it up. Yeah, and Nets are doing well.
Yeah,
You
they
got it.
are. That's Donovan Mitchell. Donovan is actually from Westchester County. So I actually knew him. He was kind of around my year. I think he's maybe a year or two younger than me. But I knew him growing up from when we were probably like 13 years old, just going to like different camps. Then also we went on a international like youth basketball trip together
hmm
from Westchester. We were the only two kids from Westchester that went on the camp, so we got connected at that point.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
but yeah, he.
I know. Donovan's father had him on the podcast.
Mm,
Yeah, because he was a baseball player, and also who was it? Donovan was with CJ for a moment.
yeah,
Dad brought him down and was in at the Boys and Girls Club in Mount Vernon as
right,
well.
right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
right.
yeah. Donovan, I don't. You know what? When his dad called me and told me, because I hadn't seen it. We played in these 3-on-3 tournaments together, me and his father.
Hmm.
This celebrity, raise some money and different things like that. So, so I had known Donovan, and then his father helped out one of the kids at the club in baseball because one of the fathers said, "Oh, you do baseball training," and so he helped one of the kids out at the club doing training. So we stayed connected for a long time. And he called me up one day, man. He said, "Man, Donovan got a full scholarship to the Louisville," and I was like, Donovan? I just didn't because I hadn't seen him in so long. Because when
Right,
the time I had seen him, he was a little guy.
right, right.
Then all of a sudden, what did Donovan? What happened? He said,
Yeah,
"Yeah, man, he got full scholarship to Louisville." And when I saw Donovan, I couldn't believe it, man. Time, he was like, boom. I was like, what?
right,
Donovan was like 6'3", 6'4". I'm like, what?
right.
Jumping out the gym.
Time flies, right?
Oh yeah, it does, man. And wow, it's amazing, man. And then
Yeah, Serge Ibaka. That's actually one of the players that I'm probably pretty close with. I've worked with him since I first came into the business. When I started, we've been able to develop a relationship. He was spending a lot of his summers here in New York, so I was
mhm.
able to do like a lot of work with him and just build a relationship, even a little bit outside of the job itself too.
Yeah. And
Yeah, Minu Muhammad. He actually came out of Georgetown last year.
he's
Um,
a beast.
yeah. Yeah, he's a really good person too. Like again, when I talk about the quality of people, like he's one of the most incredible people that I've been around and worked with.
Yeah. Who's he playing with now?
With the Delaware Blue Coats, he's in the G League right now.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, he's a physical. Woo.
Yeah,
Wow. Of course,
yeah,
it's Cam again.
yeah. That was
Yeah.
out there this past summer. At Dykeman Basketball Park.
Yeah. What's his? I mean, I think he has a great upside, man.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then that going to it before in terms of like talking about the work ethic aspect of it. Like
Mhm.
he's one of the hardest working players that I've been around for sure. Like team practices, but his individual work and preparation that goes into, every single game that he puts in
Mhm.
is one of the best that I've seen. And he would
Yeah.
like just players that want to be great, and there's no settling of like, oh, I'm good now. It's like, no, I want to continue to get better and better and better.
Mm. Yeah. I'm how you know Marlon? What's
Marlon.
Marlon's last? Taylor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I saw Marlon. Well, I saw some pictures of him working out at the Boys and Girls Club. I
Hmm.
know he was in the system with the Wizards. I think he
Yeah.
was in their Wizard system, man. I mean, what do you think? I mean, 6'5", play defense like crazy.
Right.
Because I mean LSU pulled him in for and he started for about 3 years, and man, his upside was really defense. He's athletic. I mean,
Right.
I think he's improving. I mean, some people you just don't know what it is. What is the one? What is he missing?
So look, not even to talk about him individually, I feel like a lot of this game is also like time and place and
Oh
luck.
yeah,
Honestly,
yes.
I say it all the time. I've talked about it now. It's like a lot of times it's not always about who's better than who. It's
Mm-hmm.
about every situation is different. Even when you look at the NBA draft and guys that get drafted, guys that don't get drafted, it's like the particular team or franchise that you're going to could be the outcome of what your career is, and it's just about, do you get to that situation and there's a gap in the opportunity for you to play and become better, and the coaching and the staff is willing to let you grow and play through your mistakes? Or do you get to a situation where you don't have as much opportunity, you're playing behind a bunch of veterans, and so it's not that you're not good enough or you're not good, but this particular team and their needs aren't fit for you to go out there and showcase yourself.
Yeah,
And I think that's definitely what happens with a lot of guys when they're going through the draft process, or after the draft process, whichever team or organization they may end up with. I think a lot of it is situational, more so than just one player versus the other and who's better.
yeah. I think like just finding the right opportunity for you.
Right.
Is that somebody, somebody looks at over there and sees one guy, he said, man, I like that guy right there, and he gets stuck on that guy, and then he's in. I mean, and then you get another guy who may be just as talented, but it's just something about, it's almost like I always talk about with my son Losey all the time, right? He always speaks about he's in acting, right? So going for an audition. He says, I go in and I do my best work, and it's a question of what people are looking for,
Right.
you
Right.
know, and if you're the person that they're looking for, right, at that given time in that space, then you get the opportunity. I mean,
That's all that it's about. I mean, even for the guys that are already in the NBA, that honestly could be like very good role players, even, let's say, when free agency comes, like most guys are not having all 29 other NBA teams calling because they have interest in the player. Like every team particularly has a particular need or want that they have. Like maybe that coach or that the front office, they like specific type of players. And if you're not that build or mold, then that's just not an opportunity for you. And it's not, again, that you're not good enough to play at this level, but that's just not what said team is looking for.
yeah. I mean, but as we come to a close, just hearing what you're saying, you know, um, for those who have sons or daughters that are, you know, looking to have this career opportunity, to get a scholarship one day, or hopefully go overseas or make the pros, whatever it is. I
Right.
mean, sometimes we just don't know process. We just don't hear enough of it. We don't talk enough about what you're saying in regards to, and I like it that you said Marlon's still working. He's still
Right.
putting in the work. He's still putting in the time. It's just timing.
That's it. That's
Yeah,
a lot. Yeah, that's really what a lot of it is, and just perseverance and continuing to work at it. Not get down on the situation just because one thing didn't work. One door closes, another one may open. So
hmm
you never know who's watching you. That goes to high school players all the way up to professional players. There's
right.
eyes on you at all times. You never know who's in the gym. You made the reference, or people make the reference of even myself looking young. If I went into a high school basketball gym, I wouldn't stand out as a NBA agent. I would just look like a normal relative just sitting in the crowd watching a game.
Right.
And the same thing could be said for different college coaches as well. If they're scouting, if they're
hmm
not wearing their paraphernalia with the logos on it, maybe maybe you wouldn't recognize them in the gym as well. So in terms of like even the attitude, always be conscious of there's always could be somebody watching me.
Yeah, yeah. And I think of the one thing, if you could talk a little bit about real quick as we close up, um, about what you would say, you know, to a student athlete, right? In regards to just the aspects of playing, and then also the alternative once is, because I'm sure you find in your business that the guys you represent, their career is going to end, and
Right.
a lot of times in the past, some careers don't end well, because they haven't planned for it, right? I
Right.
talked about a blueprint earlier, right? So talk about what you think young people should be. Give them some advice about young student athletes
Yeah.
that may be looking to get into this into the
Well, I
business.
think a lot of it is, focusing on your own individual lane, which could be hard to, not looking at other people's, success. If there are others having more success than you feel around you, not looking at that and whether be getting jealous or, feeling down on yourself. I think just focusing on what your lane is, whatever, and play to your strengths. Like we talked about with some of these different avenues there are to work in sports, if that is your particular interest, you know, if math is the strength of yours, then maybe look at, like I mentioned, what does it take to become a financial advisor? What does that entail? If, or becoming in salary cap, if relationships is your thing, you're a great people connector. Maybe becoming a manager is something to fulfill, or agent, that's what a lot of the job is as well. Managing personalities. If you're somebody that really loves TV and marketing, then maybe that's a lane for yourself. I think just finding whatever your particular strengths are, really diving into that, and education it being an important piece of it as well. Because if you don't become a pro athlete, realizing you still want to be involved in it, but your education is going to be your foundation for now going to achieve some of those other lanes in which you're looking to pursue. So I think that will really be like the main thing I'll focus on. And don't be afraid to like network with people. You hear people say it all the time. A lot of things are who you know, not what you know.
Mm.
So having the foundation of the educational piece of it, but don't be afraid to reach out to people cold and just introduce yourself. Some
Mhm.
people you're not going to get a response from everybody, but the one person that does respond to you may be worthwhile. And not to I'll just go back for one quick point on that. When I was coming out of college and I said I did the internship at Iona College, when I reached out to them, they responded, and I put an elaborate email together about I need this to complete my degree. I want to work in your athletic department. I'm interested in sports. I want to be athletic director, whatever I may have incorporated in that email. And they responded to me and saying, we weren't even offering an internship, but because basically you took the initiative to reach out to us, we want to help support you in what you're doing. So they created an internship for me.
Mm.
But it's like, if I never would have reached out to them and said that, that would have never been an opportunity. Now, I would have never known to even get that response. So I always say you never know who's going to be on the opposite end of your text message, your email, whatever way it is of contacting someone. You don't know how they're going to respond. And don't be down on when someone doesn't respond to you, because sometimes all you need is one yes.
Mm. Awesome, man. Man, Terrence, thanks, man. I appreciate you, man, taking the time out your busy schedule. Are you local, or are you out of town?
No, no, I'm still local. I'm still in Westchester County.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right. Yeah, so you're just doing business from here.
yeah, yeah. For the
Yeah.
time being.
But thanks a lot, man, for coming on. Tell your mom I said hello.
No, I absolutely will. I
Yeah,
absolutely will.
yeah. And again, thank you. I appreciate it, man.
No,
This was very informative. Uh, keep up the great work,
yeah.
right? And maybe one of my grandkids one day be, you know, playing pro ball or something, man, and need representation.
Look, give me a call. I'll be ready.
Okay. So again, want to thank you guys for tuning in to the Blueprint. Man, I love you guys, man. You've been supportive each and every week, man. I hope this has been informative for you. And I say this, each and every week, man, God bless you. I love you. And if you wake up tomorrow, make sure you make tomorrow your masterpiece. God bless you guys. Love you. Thanks, Terrence. Hold on.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of Lowe's More, the Blueprint Podcast. Stay connected and follow us at our website, www.lowesmore.com. That's LOWESMOORE.com. You can also join the discussion on Twitter at Lowe's More and on Facebook at Lowe's More Jr. As always, thank you for pushing your mindset towards a better reality. This concludes the most thought-provoking portion of your day. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast to stay fully up to date with everything we're up to. Until next time, be kind to yourself and each other.
What they teaching is a joke, I ain't buying it like I'm broke. Insufficient funds.